I am the Research Infrastructure Manager of the Generations and Gender Program. Today, I am joined with Yen-hsin Alice Cheng of Academia Sinica from Taiwan, as well as Philip Hessel from the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. And I am pleased to welcome everyone who's joined and is currently joining for this GGP-Connect webinar, and thank everyone for the patience as this webinar has been rescheduled. I'm looking forward to today's presentation in which Alice is going to present the experience of Taiwan in producing generations and gender survey and piloting it in the national context. As a reminder, the presentation is going to last about 20-25 minutes, and everyone who has joined onto the webinar is welcome to be upgraded to panelists, in which you will be enabled to post questions in the chat and also have your face seen should you choose so. So Philip will start inviting people now to the panelist section. Feel free to accept the invitation, and also feel free to remain invisible should you choose so and not turn on the camera. So once again, I'm pleased to have everyone here, and I welcome Alice's presentation. And without further ado, Alice, you have the floor.
Okay. I should say good morning to all of you in Europe, and for those in Asia, good afternoon. So I'm gonna give a short presentation about the GGS design in Taiwan and the pilot we just finished in early January. Okay, so now I'm going to share the screen. Please let me know if it's showing up okay.
Yeah, looks fine.
It looks fine. Okay. All right. So so the generations and gender survey in Taiwan. So why do we need GGS in Taiwan? First of all, as many demographers know, there has been very rapid demographic changes in Taiwan. Currently, the period total fertility rate is less than one child in the past 3 years, particularly during the pandemic period. And the growth of unmarried adults is key to low fertility rates. In other words, married couples on average still have 2 children. So it's really the rapidly growing unmarried adults that's driving down the total fertility rate. The prevalence of cohabitation and bridal pregnancy is rising slowly, but the former meaning the cohabiting unions in Taiwan, they are generally short in duration, and they often does not involve children. And non-marital birth rate is only about less than 4% in recent years. There has been a very minimal growth from 2% in the 70s to less than 4% now. So there's only one existing family panel survey. Oh, sorry, it shouldn't be in this. It's a panel study of family dynamics. The other panel surveys are not particularly focusing on family, or the sample is not nationally representative adult samples. But the PSFD has a problem of lacking many important variables on union histories, couple dynamics, and family values or attitudes. So the richness of the GGS questionnaire will really help us unpack many unanswered demographic puzzles in Taiwan. So there have been some web-based surveys in Taiwan, but most of them are short. They're only about 50 questions. The only one long web-based survey is the recent waves of the PSFD. They have shifted the face-to-face CAPI interview to a web-based survey, but the nature of their design is different from will be different from the GGS Taiwan, because the respondents they have in that survey have been involved in the study for many years, I think about 2 decades. So their trust in the survey or the design itself is much higher than a brand new survey like GGS Taiwan. Sampling becomes more complex after the Ministry of the Interior in Taiwan refused to release the list of names and addresses because of the because of concerns over protection of privacy and confidentiality. So currently, all social surveys in Taiwan rely on a nationwide address list that has no names of the household members. So to acquire nationally representative sample with the address list that we have access to, many major surveys have used in-house sampling method, which tends to be costly, and it requires some manpower by sending interviewers into household. So when we are thinking about how we should proceed with doing the in-house sampling for GGS Taiwan, there are two possibilities, and these are the two approaches that we have tried in our pilot study. The first one is to send interviewers to household to do the sampling, which is much more expensive. The second one will be will be to ask respondents to perform in-house sampling with instructions shown in the invitation letter that's sent to each sampled addresses. I'm going to briefly talk about the funding and design of the GGS Taiwan. So currently, this study in Taiwan is funded by a bilateral research grant between Taiwan and France. In Taiwan is the Ministry of Science and Technology, and in France, the funding agency is l'Agence Nationale de la Recherche. So the PI is me and Laurent in France. The full-scale GGS Taiwan survey would be a mixed mode study. We aim to have 8,000 CAWI completed cases plus 200 CAPI. We are thinking that the 2,000 CAPI will be reserved for those who have no access to internet, or for those who are older and have digital gap in using digital devices. So the eligible respondents will be men and women aged 18 to 69 in Taiwan. And the pilot study that we just finished was only done in CAWI, and it was completed earlier this year. We sampled 2,100 addresses from that big national address list, and we aim to finish 25% of to collect 25% of the completed questionnaire. This is our ideal target rate, but we end up obtaining much fewer questionnaire than we anticipated. And there are 5 incentive scenarios to compare different modes of in-house sampling and incentive schemes. So I'm going to talk to you about how we did the sampling. So first of all the districts, administrative districts in Taiwan, there, I don't know, there are maybe hundreds and even over 1,000 of them. They're stratified into 6 levels using 8 indicators related to population structure, density, education profile of that district, etc. And then within each level, we randomly select one township or district, depending on whether it's urban or rural. And within that given township or district, we sampled 2 different villages. It's actually not villages. It's very difficult to translate. It's either villages or a different word, but doesn't matter. It's just a unit. So we sampled 2 villages out of 1 selected district. And so there will be a group of address A and a group of address B. And for each group of address, we have different scenarios to do our pilot. So this is how it's the cases were allocated. So for each level, we do the same thing. Yeah. So basically, it looks like this. So group A, address group A, will be the survey will be conducted through sending interviewers to do the sampling, and there are two different kinds of incentive mode, and these are the sample case distribution of the different approach. So to make it simpler, I sort of put it into this more easier to understand graphical presentation. So group A address, they will involve interviewer sampling method, and the tools incentive plans. One is unconditional with 100 NT dollar gift card given when the respondent agreed to answer the interview, plus 300 afterwards when he or she finished the survey. The other incentive is if a respondent finished the survey within 1 week after his or her consent, he or she will be given 400. If it takes longer than a week, then it's 300. So group B address also have the two exact same incentive scenario, except the potential respondents in a given address receive an invitation letter, and then the in-house sampling is done by themselves. And I will tell you how it's done. The fifth scenario is the same as the first, the unconditional 100 and plus 301, except it's using the mail method under group A address. And this scenario here is used as a bridge scenario in a sense. So every pair of the incentive plan can be compared with each other, even though they might be coming from group A or group B. So when we know that for example, can you see my arrow when I'm pointing at the slides?
If there's supposed to be a pointer, yeah.
See arrows? So
Yeah.
okay, so let's say if this incentive and this incentive can be compared, and let's say the male one is higher, then when it's compared with this one, it serves as a base for us to compare the group B unconditional 100 plus 300 with the group A. So this scenario here is really it really functions as a bridge design. Okay. So this is like the 7-Eleven gift card that we are sending out, depending on how many they get them. If it's 300, then that's 3 of them. And this gift card is quite useful in Taiwan because the density of 7-Eleven in Taiwan is very high. So first of all, how do we do in-house sampling? So we send interviewers to a sampled address, and then we ask the interviewer to randomly select an eligible resident in that household to answer the survey. And so that involved taking into account the total number of residents in that household and the ages of these respondents. So let's say if a household has 3 members who are in the age of 18 and 69, then 3 will be the total number of that household, even though they also have an 80-year-old residing in the household. We only consider it as a 3-people household. And then this is the chart that will be used by interviewer to decide which person in the household will answer the questionnaire. So all the addresses will be randomly given a code, whether it's a questionnaire A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So let's say, okay. So for a given address, if the questionnaire code is E, and the interviewer found out that there are 3 people aged in the correct age range, then the person selected to answer the questionnaire will be 2. 2 means the second youngest person in the household. So this is how it's done. So we will train the interviewer to do this. So once the selected respondent agree to participate in GGS Taiwan, this small business card size card will be given to them. And so they can either scan the QR code or enter the survey web link to complete the survey. And for approach 2, it's the mail method. We will send out invitation letters to all sampled addresses. And then we ask the recipient, whoever opened the letter, to select an eligible respondent by filling out a few questions on a short online Google form thing. So this is how the letter looks like. And then this is the invitation letter. So within the letter, every household has its specific link to guide them to the right form to complete their in-house sampling procedure. Remember, because all these addresses will be fall under different incentive scenarios. So that's why every letter contains a very specific link to that sample code, so that they will be answering the right form for the right incentive scheme. So once they scan this code, they will be guided to this Google form. So they the first question asks, how many people between the age 18 to 69 live here? So they might be answer 1 to 6 plus. And from the youngest to the oldest, please write down these people's age. So if there are 3 of them and they're in the age range of 65, 50, and 60, then it should be written down as this. And then the system will automatically tell you, okay, we want to ask the youngest one in this household to be our respondent. Is this person yourself? If it's not yourself, please check here and tell us which person is that. And then we will ask them to send the questionnaire link to that person's mobile phone. So the situation will be like this. So a household receive a letter, and so it's either the recipient, himself or herself, who are the sampled respondent and who should finish the questionnaire, or he or she is not the right respondent we're looking for, but then we will ask him or her to send the link to the right person and to get his or her consent to finish the questionnaire. So then this is a consent form. So we ask them explain our design and purpose and what kind of gift card incentive they will be receiving. If they have if they have questions or concerns, who to contact. And then and then we ask what their sample code is, so the specific 9-digit sample code. And then we ask them, are you willing to participate in this survey, yes or no? So once they say yes, we ask them for their name, for their gender, their phone number, their email address, and their Line ID. Line is a very popular messenger app in Taiwan. It's like WhatsApp or some kind of, so that we can get in contact with them, or even answer their questions if they have anything they don't understand regarding the survey. And in the beginning, we tell them we need all these information, because in the end, we need to send them the gift card. So we actually need their name and their address. So hopefully they give us all these information so we can track them. And so once they are willing to participate in the survey, this page tells them this is the web page you should go to finish the questionnaire. So after we send out that invitation letter, we know many of them will be thrown into garbage can, or people forgot to respond to the invitation. So starting from the second week, we send out postcard reminders. So the postcard reminders has a sample address, on the front, and in the back, it also contains this very specific link that they should be going to. It will lead them to the Google form so that they can do the in-house sampling themselves. And then we tell them what we will give them if they finish the questionnaire, and if they have concerns, where they can look up whether this is a scam or a fraudulent thing, if they have any concerns. So this is the postcard reminder, and we sent out 4 of them in 1 month. So this is the completion rate by this incentive scenario. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 districts in Taiwan that got selected. Within each district, we selected 70 addresses from this given district, and to do 7 addresses for each one of these scenarios, so 350 for each one of these. So we see that for scenario 1 and 2, where we send interviewers into the household, the completion rate is higher with the pre and post incentive. And for the mailing approach, the highest completion rate is the one also with the pre and post incentive. But there are a few cases where the completion rate is extremely low, and I have to say that this one is in the eastern coast of Taiwan, which is the population density is much lower, and it's a remote town that is usually a very difficult area to conduct any kind of survey. But somehow with interviewer sent to the addresses here, we see that this one has a particularly high completion rate. So overall, the completion rate is about 13% for Taiwan in the pilot study. And then I'm going to show you a few very brief descriptive statistics about the completed cases. So we completed 265 of them. 44 questionnaires were not finished. And more of these respondents were female than male. And the age distribution is like this. And the 265 cases is quite well educated, and the distribution is higher than the national average. So I would say that better educated or tertiary educated men and women seem to be more willing to participate in this pilot. And then in the very end, we asked 3 specific questions that's only specific to the Taiwan case. So we asked them what kind of devices they use to finish the survey. So 84% of them said they use a mobile phone. Only 11% use a PC. And we asked them whether you experience any slow or breaks, a slow connection or breaks during the interview, the survey when you try to finish the questionnaire. Half of them said 1 to 5 times. So it's kind of common to experience breaks. And we asked them, will you be willing to take part in a future similar study? 70% of them said yes. So we know that people who agree to participate is actually a very selected group. And so finally, the last slide, I'm going to talk about the obstacles and challenges ahead. So the funding, so we have some issues with the funding. Because of the budget cap of the Taiwan-France bilateral research grant, it makes the GGS Taiwan an underfunded project. The budget cap is largely from the Taiwan side. It's not from the French side. But anyway, but there's hope that we'll secure funding from other sources within the National Academy of Science here in Taiwan. Now, sorry. The other more challenging obstacle is that the Survey Research Center at Academia Sinica here actually does not have the capacity to execute a survey with a target of 10,000 completed cases. And plus, the SRC also refuses to use the BLAZE system that is sort of a system mandate by NEDI, and they are only willing to undertake contracts that use their own own integrated survey platform that they develop by themselves. So because of that, the pilot study was actually carried out by one full-time research assistant that I hired, who is experienced with survey fieldwork, and we also hired 3 part-time RAs to finish the pilot. But for the full-scale survey, it would be a much larger team will be required. But experienced RAs are scarce resources in Taiwan. We are having a hard time trying to recruit eligible full-time RAs to help us pull out the full-scale survey in Taiwan. So these are what we are facing now. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Alice. It's truly impressive to look at the work that you've done. So I'd like to take a moment and congratulate you and your team on all this effort that you put in and the successful pilot. It was really interesting to listen to your presentation, and I see that the attendees are also clapping. So once again, congratulations. Now, it is time for questions, and I invite everyone to use this opportunity to pose questions to Alice and get your answers and insights. You can do so by typing your questions in the chat or by raising your hand and unmuting yourself. It is also possible to use video now. Olga Maslovskaya, our colleague from Southampton.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfectly fine.
Hi.
Thank you very much. Hello, hi. Very interesting presentation. Great work you've done in Taiwan. It was really interesting to hear your results from the pilot. I just wanted I have a short question at the end, but first a couple of comments. We have finished the data collection in the UK, and just wanted to mention that for push to web approach, our response rate was very similar to yours. I think you quoted 13%. We had 14%. So it's very similar. And also our final sample had more females and more educated people. So results are quite similar to what you obtained in your pilot. My question was, so you talked about different sampling schedules, which you were I think 2 of them which were including the interviewer. They would be coming to the households and doing the enumeration themselves. And then some of them were responding within the households. People, we needed to decide who is going to be the correct person to actually take the survey. I was wondering, was this done just for the pilot? Which method, what's your plan? Which method you're going to be taking forward for the main stage data collection?
Okay, so just one question for the full scale, right?
Sorry? No, I was just wondering, my question was for the main stage data collection, are you gonna include interviewers for enumeration, or is it gonna be the approach where respondents will be receiving the letter and they would need to decide who is the right person to complete the survey? Or will you have an interviewers? So I don't know, there were different approaches you discussed, and I'm not quite sure what's the plan. Was it an experiment which was conducted at pilot stage, and then the decision would be taken for the main stage, or you will be using different approaches to sampling for the main stage as well?
For the full-scale survey, we are still deciding. Although the interviewer approach is more expensive, but actually the the mail approach is not that inexpensive either because of the low completion rate. You know, for all the people who didn't respond, we still need to send them all these things, and these are sort of wasted, and then it sort of increase the per head cost for the completed cases. So we are still trying to decide which approach we are going to go, whether it's interviewer or mailing approach to do the CAWI part of the full scale. We haven't decided yet. But if we pick one of the two, the procedure will be exactly the same as what is being done in the pilot.
Okay, thank you.
Deciding.
Thank you very much. Thank you and good luck. Yeah, hopefully you'll find funding. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much for the question, Olga. Any more questions to Alice? While waiting for questions to pop up in the chat or people's raised hands, I did have a question. Oh, there you go. Our colleague from NIDI, GGP's Central Coordination Team. Go ahead. You have the precedence.
Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you or see you. Thanks for your very detailed presentation. So I was wondering, your number of towns or districts was quite small now, but it was the pilot was a small scale, of course. So how many districts would you use if you do the full scale survey with interviewers? Because that would increase the costs a lot, I guess. Or would you still have, a relatively low number of districts with many addresses selected per district?
They will still be sampled from the 6 levels, except within each level, we are gonna increase the number of towns. That's the level 2 part of the towns. But we will try to make sure that they are not too far away from each other. They're random, but not too far away, so that when the interviewers are going to be sent to these places, we don't have to use too many of them. So that's our initial plan. But we are now still trying to think about the details about how we're going to do that. But basically, just we will increase the level to sampled towns. And then the last level of sampled addresses within each, also towns and then districts. And within each district, the number of sampled addresses will need to be increased as well. So within each level, they will have to be sort of expanded. The total cases will have to be expanded so that we have enough addresses to finish the target case. So let's say if we want to finish 10,000, we'll probably need 40,000 addresses at least to run it. So that's our plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Erika. Thank you, Alice, for the answer. Any more questions?
I think there's something in the chat.
Let's check. So a comment from Philip. Yeah, a reminder, you can also use the chat if you have any questions. Also, you can raise your hand and ask a question directly. So while waiting for more questions, where'd you go? Yes.
You're muted.
Sorry. I was wondering if you also checked how many people started the Google form but quit there. So maybe, for example, they found the respondent selection difficult, or do you know anything about that? Or people who finished that form, but if they weren't the selected person themselves, that in the end no one did that? Do you have any information on how the Google form worked, basically.
We might have the number of people who started the Google form but didn't finish it. But I'm not quite sure what the exact statistic is. Actually, our full-time assistant is online with us. I don't know whether she knows the answer or she can find the statistic. But I think we might be able to track it. Hold on, let me ask.
Yeah, I can imagine you don't have the numbers on the top of your head, but it would be interesting to look a bit into this, how well the
I
form
think
functions.
I asked my assistant one time during when the pilot was in progress. I think I asked them, but I forgot whether they gave me a statistic.
Well, it's something to look into for
Yeah,
later. Thank you.
if I find out the statistic later on, I will email you.
Thank you.
Thanks for this. Joy,
Good question. Yeah.
our colleague from Hong Kong and in charge also in field work.
Hi.
I'm Joy from the Philippines, but I help in the Hong Kong GGS. So I was like,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
since you were also using addresses as part of the sample, I was wondering how you considered the unoccupied, quarters for both interview and web-based.
Mhm.
Yeah. So how did you address the unoccupied housing units?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That is actually a good question. So, so for the address list we actually got it from a geographer inside our academy. So he and his assistant actually did a first round of screening, sort of tease out the obviously wrong quote unquote addresses to be sampled. For example, schools, prisons, or nursing homes, those obvious ones. And then when we got the address list, we sample out, let's say 350 of them or 70 of them within a specific village, right? Let me show you something here. We actually had something to check that. So we got all these addresses, say within a village, right? So we blocked out the details here. And then we go to this web page that is run by the Ministry of the Interior in Taiwan. It says it's like a nationwide territory. I don't know how to translate directly. It tells you exactly like this street, this given street, and these numbers, the location of it, and then it actually has like a shot of the street view. So we sort of scan using the Google Street to scan the address list, and if a given address looks obviously not like a place where there will be regular residents, we then take it out. So if let's say for this old district where the first floor is actually like a family restaurant, then there still might be possibility that on the second or third floor there will be residents. Then we will not delete this address. So we really have to thank to this web page that is maintained by the Ministry of Interior in Taiwan. So it gives you a street by street shot, so you can actually look at what a specific address is like from the outside, so we can do some kind of screening.
Yeah.
So then,
But for sorry, can I do a follow up? Like, but for say for the interview, the ones where you did interviews, were you able to find unoccupied quarters? And what did you do about it?
what do you mean by interview but it's unoccupied?
I
You mean
mean,
so?
you have these addresses, right? And the interviewers went there to
Uh-huh,
look for respondents. So I
uh-huh,
was like wondering if you encountered in this particular quarters,
uh-huh.
if they encountered unoccupied or like no people there.
Yeah, so then this is the record given to the interviewer. So this is the sample code. And then this is the record that first visit, second visit, third visit, fourth visit, fifth visit, and is it visit in the morning, afternoon, or night? So they have to record this. And if they find out it's a unoccupied place, they'll have to give a code. Or if a household member refused to be interviewed, why? So there are different codes for different reasons. So every interviewer have to give us back their visit record of a specific address. So
Okay.
yeah, and for online in-house sampling, then we don't know about that. That would be simply no response, I think.
Yeah.
But for the scenarios where we send out the interviewer, this is the form that they need to finish. So they're actually, we also give them this map. So all the blue dots are the addresses that they need to visit. So sort of give them a rough idea where to go. So it's a bird's eye view of a specific quarter.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you,
So
Alice.
that's what we did. And these are the different codes for the reason why this address didn't complete a survey. But it's all in Chinese. Yeah. Yep. So
Thank you very much. We have time for one more question, and I do see that Grace has typed one into the chat, so I'll just simply read it out. So the question goes as follows. I might have missed this, but I think the completion rates for the incentives were all similar to each other. Is there a hypothesis for why this is? And also Grace says she wondered what the final incentive structure would look like, taking into account the budget constraints. Or would you run another incentive experiment in the full-scale project?
okay. They were not very different from each other. That's quite true. So that's also a good information for us to learn. Is there a hypothesis for why this is? I think they were similar to each other and they were similarly low. Well, low based on my expectation. And I expected to be higher, but I think it wasn't so high because over the past 2 years, there are quite a bit of fraud and scams in Taiwan, all kinds of fraud and scams. So people got very alerted to these kind of invitation. They tend to be very cautious. So that really depressed the completion rate. And for why the completion rates weren't so different across the scenarios, I'm not very sure about it, except I think the interviewer scheme has slightly higher rates. And that also tells us, given the cost of it, maybe it's not the most efficient way to do this survey in Taiwan. And so the question is what the final incentive structure would be given the budget constraints. So we are thinking about lowering our target completion cases from 10,000 to maybe 7,000 or 8,000 because it's really difficult. And given the fact that we also have manpower issues, so running a 10,000 case survey will be very difficult. Yeah, and in terms of what kind of incentive we will adopt for the full scale, like like my answer earlier, we're still trying to decide that. Yeah, and will we run another incentive experiment in the full scale project? we are not planning for that as of now. That's my answer.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the answer. Thank you for the question. And Grace has just said thank you as well in the chat.
Thank
So
you.
with this, I would like to close the official part of the Generation and Gender Program Connect webinar on Taiwan. I still invite everyone to stay over if you want to have an informal chat with Alice or any of the other colleagues. We will stay logged on for a little while. But at this point, once again, thank you, Alice, for all the tremendous work that you've done for this insightful presentation. It was a pleasure to follow it. And thank you to Philip, who ran this show today, as well as everyone else who joined us this morning to get to know better how the GGS was piloted and is going to be run in Taiwan. So with this,